What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. Last time out, we were at the British Grand Prix, and for the first time in 6 seasons, I finally won my home Grand Prix. I have been trying for many years, and yeah, we finally managed to get it in a race where we were competing with our teammate Alex Albon the whole way across the first stint, and then his car broke down, and that allowed us to drive away with no real competition after that. So yeah, unfortunate for him, but I was more than happy to inherit the win myself, and I just hope that we can continue the good run of form we've been on recently. We've taken 5 wins in the last 7 or so races. It's been very strong. So yeah, we come to about the halfway point in the season now, and it's going to be the French Grand Prix. And this is a race that I think I typically do quite well at, but last season we did suffer a DNF after starting quite far down the order, and I was a little bit disappointed, but at the same time I was kind of like, of all the places for it to happen, it could have been a lot worse. You know, I was pootling around in 8th or 9th or something like that, I think, really struggling to get ahead of the cars in front of me, and then yeah, the car just gave up. But I have won here in the past, and I've been a competitor on other occasions as well. So I think that we could be good. Alex Albon 100 rated with that recent boost to his experience, although that will probably drop back down to 99 once the boost goes away. His market value 16.5 million. We will probably have enough to afford his contract renewal going forward, but I am not going to spend any money on anything else until we have renewed him. That's usually how I go. We don't desperately need any more facility upgrades or anything like that. We've basically got everything that we need to operate effectively as a Formula 1 team. So I just get things in from time to time just to improve sort of our ability to gain cash and things like that, because you gain more cash from sponsorships the higher acclaim you have. And it kind of becomes a little bit of a positive feedback loop after a while. You know, we got so many resource points that there's no concern about if there were a regulation change, we'd be able to cover it off twice over, I think, at this point. So I'm not really concerned about regulation changes in the slightest, and I'm not really worried about cash. I think we'll always be able to afford contract renewals and things like that, as long as we don't suddenly have a massive downturn in performance. But I can't really see that happening. You know, we have the fastest car on the grid. There's no more upgrades really anyone can do at this point. If I were to show you the graph of development, it would be literally straight lines for everyone all season, this season, and for most of last season as well. Pretty much every car on the grid is completely capped out at this point, so we're not looking at development. We're kind of looking at you know, just who turns up. It's performance from the drivers now is everything. Setup is crucial, and yeah, driver performance too is incredibly important. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that I can give Alex Albon as many boosts to his focus as I can, because he's always 100 rated on everything except experience, which is the least important stat anyway. So I'm just trying to get his focus up to make sure that he realizes his stats as best he possibly can. And likewise, I imagine that will probably be the focus of all the other teams, is improving focus of their drivers as well. I wouldn't be surprised if most teams have Spec 3 facilities by this point. But anyway, enough waffle. We get into qualifying. I'm only doing one run in Q1 this time, because that's all I felt like I needed to do to get through to Q2. So we crossed the line, and I was 100% right on the fresh set of soft tyres. We managed to get through in P2. No real issue, and yeah, I was thinking that honestly, with the pace we were showing, we might be able to do a similar thing in Q2 as well. You know, P2 in one run, I feel like could definitely be reproducible in Q2. So I'll just try and see if we can do the same thing, basically. So yeah, Q2, we go out again for the first time, down in P16 at the moment, having not set a time, and we're going to see if we can get a time that is fast enough to see us through to Q2. Joe with a 129.2 there. We do a 128.3. I think it'll be good enough. And it is P2 again. So yeah, we're through P2 in both sessions, through to Q3 pretty easy. Cut down a bit of time in qualifying where we don't have to worry about doing banker laps and that kind of thing. There's no real surprises here in qualifying either. It's just very sort of clean cut. I want to get into the race as quickly as I possibly can. You know, I don't want to be messing around in qualifying for no reason when I could be spending my time having a good race, hopefully gunning for the win here. If we can get pole position in Q3, that would be fantastic, but also I don't know if it would be necessary. It is a track that you can overtake at, typically. This time out, I did choose to do a banker lap just to make sure that I was, you know, maximizing my potential around here. We crossed the line. It's a 1:29.1 this time. And yeah, that is a used run, so I think we can probably find about 5 or 6 tenths just from going on a different set of tyres. But let's find out. We now join ourselves in the final sector of Q3, 3 tenths up at the moment as we start the final sector, but it is the most corner heavy of the bunch. So I definitely think that there will be more improvement that we'll be able to find here, I would imagine. And you can see that just through one corner we managed to improve by 2 tenths or so. So I reckon that we're gonna have the opportunity to hopefully make up even more time through these last few corners as well. If I get a good exit from the final corner, we could be looking at some big improvements. I go a little bit wide, and that might cost me a little bit of time actually, but we are going to be over 7 tenths up as we come to the line. I reckon it's about 74 hundredths across the line. It's a 1:28.4, I think that was on this occasion, and it was good enough to put us P2. So very consistent, P2, P2, and P2, and yeah, not too disappointed with that.
Ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid: Norris, Robinson, and Alex Albon. With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Yeah, unexpectedly actually, Albon in P3. I would have thought that it would have been him on pole if not me, but Norris did manage to do a 1:28.2, so very strong lap time from him, and perhaps his intentions of getting back into the championship fight are being marked out. Obviously, he was who we were battling with last season. For most of the season, definitely once we got into the second half of the season, it emerged that he was going to be my closest championship contender. Here, I feel like it could be anyone at the moment. It could easily be Albon, Leclerc, Norris, Gasly, Verstappen. Any of those guys, I think, could still be involved in the championship fight. And yeah, I mean, all I hope for is that a championship fight like this can go down to the wire, because it's always exciting when there's lots of drivers who are still in championship contention. But you know, we're gonna have to start getting a few worse results, I think, if it's going to go down to the wire, because right now we're just completely on fire, and I'm hoping that we can continue our good run of form personally as we get into the French Grand Prix.
Here we are again then at Le Castellet for another round of this year's Formula One World Championship. Renault took their first French Grand Prix win all the way back in the inaugural race in 1906, but it was another 73 years before they could take their second. I'm sure Alpine will be pushing hard to delight the local fans here today. Mastering a lap of Paul Ricard means getting to know 15 corners. 6 go to the left and 9 go to the right, for an overall lap distance of 3.6 miles. The two halves of the long Mistral Straight are separated by a heavy braking zone into a potential overtaking hotspot at the chicane. And watch out for drivers running onto the distinctive coloured stripes, which are low in grip and highly abrasive. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Robinson lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Sainz, Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, and Verstappen. Russell, Gasly, Norris, they've taken a grid penalty, and Kevin Magnussen. Joe, Albon, Oscar Piastri, and Mick Schumacher. Stroll, Théo Pourchaire, Enzo Fittipaldi, and Robert Schwartzman. Latifi, Tsunoda, Lundgaard, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Natalie Pinkham, a lot of talented drivers out on the track today, but what will stand out for you?
My focus is 100% on the front of the grid. Like you said, we're seeing a lot of strong competition across those positions, so it'll be so interesting to see the fight for that front spot. Personally speaking, I'm hoping for plenty of overtakes.
Okay, now that we've got some good points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Sorry for cutting you off for a second there, Mark. I just had to check to make sure that no one else around me was starting on soft compound tyres when I was on mediums. But yeah, we're absolutely fine. We are starting on the mediums as well as pretty much everyone around us. Norris and Albon have both received penalties, so that's two of my biggest competitors basically eliminated from having any chance of taking points off me in this race. We inherit the lead of the Grand Prix before it even starts as a result of Norris's penalty, and yeah, this puts us in a very good position to win it. But it is a race which is fairly close to Leclerc's home. It's obviously not his home race, but I'm sure that there will be some fans who will have travelled to see him drive here, and I'm sure that he is going to be very keen to try and win the Grand Prix himself as well. So we're going to try and do everything we can to deny him that as we get ready now, as the lights come on. And the lights go out as we switch to the replay camera, and you can see I've gotten away there well, but so has Leclerc, and I think he is going to be challenging me here down into turn 1. Carlos Sainz has had a very good start as well, and he might be challenging too. He's going to go around the outside. I'm going to be to the inside. I think I went over the track briefly there, actually, so I need to be careful. And yeah, we go wheel to wheel as we come on the run down to turn 3. It's Sainz and Leclerc challenge me. I squeeze them to the inside, and that allows me to sweep around the outside, which turns to the inside for the following corner. And as we get round to the end of the first sector, you can see I'm comfortably ahead, knocking over all the bollards that stand in the way of me and victory. But yeah, we hold on to the lead. It was a pretty good start. We just got a bit feisty with Leclerc, I would say. You know, he was trying to send it up my inside wherever possible, but I was able to hang it around the outside of him, and that meant that I was able to keep hold of the lead, and hopefully I can continue holding on to that for the remainder of the Grand Prix. But one thing I've noticed compared to the AI, which you're going to see here as well, as Leclerc now challenges up my inside once again. I'm going to see if I can sweep around the outside. I've noticed that the AI seem to be drastically faster in a straight line than me, and where I thrive is in the corners. So I assume that my car must be set up to have slightly higher downforce than the rest of the AI, because yeah, they were making up a few tenths on me every time during the straights. But fortunately, pretty much every straight on this track is immediately broken up by a number of you know, quite high downforce, high speed corners. So it meant that I would be breaking a gap to these guys of about sort of like 7 or 8 tenths at the start of every straight, which they would then close down to, you know, sort of 3 or 4 tenths. But it was never so much that that I couldn't handle it, and that I couldn't then break away and continue building another gap during the next sort of section. So yeah, when we come to lap 4, you can see that that I'm about 7 tenths up on Leclerc, and he is closing me down on this straightaway, but I don't think it's going to be enough. They say we're going to have some rain soon, and that is pretty good. It means that we probably won't have to do a pit stop. At this point, I was thinking, you know, even if it comes on sort of like lap 15 or so, you can see my pit lap is lap 13. But even if it comes on lap 15 or something, I'll still try and just extend my first stint a little bit longer, and maybe then we can you know, break away from the pack if they pit and we don't. If they're all coming in on lap 13, 14, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to hold on to onto the lead a bit more comfortably than we currently have it. Lap 5, and I was starting to get a bit concerned about Leclerc. It seemed like he was closing me down just about every lap. He was reeling me in a little bit, and yeah, I was starting to get a bit worried that he might potentially catch up to me and start mounting a challenge for the lead once again. You can see that the gap is just 5 tenths now as we come into the DRS zone. He will have the DRS as well, burning a little bit of battery, but not too much, trying to make sure I conserve it for the remainder of the race. If the rain comes, obviously that will stop being an issue. Then we can burn as much battery as we like, because you always manage to get a bit more battery back in the rain, because you have to brake a little bit harder, and there's just a bit more kinetic energy loss, that kind of thing. So it all gets recycled into electrical energy, which you can then burn on the straights to give yourself a bit of a power advantage. But yeah, we come into this next DRS straight, and you can see that Leclerc was closer than he was last lap. But I don't know if he's going to be close enough to close me down on this straight. I burn a little bit of battery again, not too much, and we have a safety car. I'm not quite sure why this has come out, but it has, and that's something that we are going to have to we're going to have to react to potentially. I was thinking about maybe coming in to stop on this occasion, but knowing that the rain was coming sooner rather than later, I was a little bit concerned that if we did stop, you know, we might end up behind some of the other cars. That is Zhou Guanyu going into the back of Oscar Piastri there. I think Piastri was retiring from the race, and it caught Zhou unawares, so Joe kept going, Piastri was slowing down, and that caused him to plow into the back of Piastri. But yeah, Piastri out of the race. Joe was able to continue, but I think he had to stop to change his front wing and whatnot. But yeah, you can see him coming into the pits there in the Mercedes. And we are going once again in the French Grand Prix. You know, no real issues on the safety car restart. Managed to break away from Leclerc a little bit, see if I can extend that gap to over 1 second, so I don't have to worry about him in the DRS zones. But I think that we might just be a little bit too close to him to break away out of 1 second immediately. Obviously, we'll get a couple laps. It'll be lap 11 when the DRS gets re-enabled, so until then, I'm just going to try and push as much as I can to keep him behind. But yeah, we're looking pretty comfortable in this race right now. Seems like we have pretty good pace. Moving on though to the end of lap 12 and the start of lap 13, I was getting a bit worried because every time I was checking beforehand about the weather, they were saying it was still quite a way out, you know, sort of 15 minutes or so. But then when I check right before my pit lap, they say it's only 5 minutes away. So I was thinking to myself, well, you know, I'm looking at the tyre wear. We've done 42% after 13 laps. Yes, there was a safety car for a couple of laps, but still, I think I think that we're probably going to be able to go on these tyres still for another, I don't know, 6 or 7 laps still. So I'm going to try and stay out, I think, as Leclerc actually does end up passing me, but I'm going to go for a move on him back up the inside. And yeah, we managed to make the move stick. That's a bit similar to some of the moves that you've seen me make in other places like Miami and Belgium, and of course at Luffield in Silverstone. I love making that move at Luffield, but I didn't have to do it at any point last race because I was leading for pretty much the entire time. Leclerc does come into the pits, and so do a number of other cars. You can see that there was a Mercedes, an Alpine, a Ferrari, a McLaren, loads of them coming into the pits on that occasion, and that's meant that maybe if this rain does come with any kind of speed, then we could be in the box seat, I think. You can see that we're 10 seconds ahead of Gasly, who has stopped at this point, but stopped under the safety car. He started on softs. And right as I go past the pit entry, they tell me that it's time to fit the intermediate tyres. I think Lundgaard has actually already come in for a set of intermediate tyres, so he might have really figured out the strat on this occasion to help himself get into the best position possible. Do I think he's going to catch me up by 15 seconds or however far he was behind me? Probably not, but yeah, he definitely might gain a position or two off the back of that. Either way, this is a very mixed up grid looking like at the moment, because this is the running order now that we're starting to come into the pits. It's myself from Gasly, from Stroll, from Schumacher, from Tsunoda. Lundgaard fits into that picture somewhere, not quite clear where, but yeah, this is legitimately the top 5 right now. And I'm getting a little bit of flashbacks to that Chinese Grand Prix back in Season 2 where I didn't actually finish the race. But you may remember that that had a very mixed up grid, with Gasly winning that Grand Prix and Stroll coming in second, and Tsunoda actually came third in that one as well. So a lot of drivers who were winning big in that Grand Prix are once again right up at the sharp end of the grid on this occasion as well, as Schumacher moves into third briefly, but then he falls back down to fourth. Gasly and Stroll continue to occupy the final podium positions. Lundgaard has made his way into fifth, so he did, I think, manage to jump Tsunoda through that pit stop, perhaps. And yeah, as we move on to lap 20, you can see that yeah, the gap is just so big, I can't see anyone closing it down, quite frankly. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, this this circumstance. The correct strategy for most people seems to be starting on a set of softs, pitting under the safety car, and then you know, going until the rain came, and then changing onto the set of intermediate tyres. There are a few people that started on the mediums. They stayed out under the safety car, and then ended up pitting for the intermediates anyway. So effectively, they didn't get the cheap stop that you can get under a safety car on some occasions. We opted for a completely different strategy, which was just not pitting at all until the rain came, and that only worked because of when the rain came. If the rain had been, you know, sort of lap 21 or something like that, I would have been completely screwed, and I would probably be finding myself wherever Charles Leclerc is right now. You know, probably I think about P9 or something like that at the moment. So yeah, we would have not been in a strong position given that we were leading this Grand Prix for the whole time. So yeah, I think the strategy that I was on really proved itself to be the best strategy in the end. You know, because obviously if you're starting on a set of softs and pitting, you're going to get caught up behind a number of cars that didn't stop, even if it does work out in the long run. In the short term, it probably wasn't the most viable strategy. And if there hadn't been rain, I think they would have maybe worked out anyway, because I don't know if the cars behind would have been able to overtake them necessarily. But if they had, they would have been on much fresher tyres, and yeah, it could have been interesting to see what would happen in that scenario. Nonetheless, you can see that we are now on the final lap of the Grand Prix, and the gap has just keeps growing and growing. Gasly's almost 15 seconds down on me now. I really don't think I'm going to have to worry so much. The rain was looking like it might dry out, and I was a little bit concerned that the AI might have more pace on intermediate tyres on a dry track than I would have. But I don't think it would be so dramatic that Gasly would have been able to catch me in 3 or 4 laps anyway. It would have just been like maybe a second a lap or something like that, I reckon. So yeah, we're looking very comfortable as we round the final few corners in this race. In the end, it's been a dominant French Grand Prix from us, really. We only lost the lead for a couple of corners, really, at any one time. And yeah, I didn't really have anything to worry about. Maybe if the strategy had played out differently, I would have had more concerns. But we're going to cross the line to win the French Grand Prix, win our 2nd race in a row, and our 6th race of the season. So I am very, very happy with that. And yeah, I hope that this strong run of form that we are on will continue for many races to come. As Christian Lundgaard gets driver of the day there. I'm very pleased.
We've witnessed some great battles around Paul Ricard today, and they've taken a fantastic win. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they have a car that comes alive in the conditions that we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is the drivers have confidence to attack. Having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, gets you on the brakes later, and can put you a long way up the road.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
I feel like we've got a bit of a role reversal going on with me and my engineer. I feel like my engineer gets way more excited about my wins than I do. Whereas in real life, you know, you see it all the time where, you know, Max Verstappen will win a race and he'll be like, yes! And then, you know, GP will just be like, well done, Max. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that there's that role reversal where I'm just kind of like, yeah, cool, good drive. And my engineer's like screaming over the radio, like, I can't believe we won this race. Like, really? You can't? This is the 6th time it's happened this season.
Let's have a quick look at how the driver standings have changed. Robinson increases their championship lead. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
Christian Lundgaard gets my vote today.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from Red Bull this time out, and they improve their position in the championship. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
So Albon with the penalty managed to recover to P8. I actually think he had to stop with some damage at some point. In fact, part of me even thinks that he might have been the driver who brought out the safety car first time around when he was trying to make an overtake. That is the danger about having a driver who is so fast, is that he is very keen on making overtakes as quickly as possible, and sometimes that can lead him to making mistakes and having incidents. You know, he came back to finish 8th, so it wasn't a terrible result in the end. But when you compare it to the likes of Lundgaard, Tsunoda and Schumacher, who started, I think, 21st, 20th and 22nd, maybe not in that order, but, you know, the bottom 3 cars finished in the top 6. That is incredible to think that that happened in a race like this. Stroll on the podium for the first time since, I think it was China in 2023 was the first time that one happened, season 2. Maybe if there was a Chinese Grand Prix in real life this year. Stroll would have been on the podium there as well. Who knows? I somehow don't think that that Gasly or Tsunoda would have been. I don't think that the AlphaTauri or the Alpine is competitive enough to get podiums this season. Or maybe the Alpine might be able to fluke one in a very bizarre race. But other than that, I think it's going to be limited to 4 teams on the podium this season, which is honestly more than we get usually. So I'm not too disappointed with that. But anyway, enough talk about real-life Formula 1. Let's talk about my virtual Formula 1 fan fiction that we've got going on here. I lead the championship by over 25 points now, which means I have enough scope to have a failure and still be leading the championship. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen in Hungary, which is the next race. Fingers crossed if I do have another failure, it's not for at least a few races, and I can extend my championship lead even further. We also lead the Constructors' Championship by over 100 points now as we reach the halfway point of the season. We're having a very dominant season in the Constructors, which I guess makes sense when the two of us are leading the Drivers' Championship. You know, myself from Albon, he still finds his way into second place despite having a lackluster finish, in no small part due to the fact that Charles Leclerc also did not have a fantastic race. I think he finished 9th or 10th if I remember correctly. Yeah, anyone who started on the mediums basically got screwed in that race, and anyone who started on the softs had a fantastic race, apart from myself, who started on the mediums and had, you know, one of the most dominant drives I've had all season, really. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. But that's only the halfway point in this season. Things could easily slip out of our grasp still. 33 points is a big lead, but we almost lost it when we were leading by even more at this time last season. We almost blew it in the final few races, so anything could still happen. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe. Hopefully I will see you for Hungary, and until next time, I hope you have a fantastic day.